Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're taking a fascinating and I think really profound journey into a global publishing phenomenon.
We are. We're looking at Eckhart Tolle's international bestseller, The Power of Now, a guide to spiritual enlightenment.
And this isn't just, a popular book.
No, that's
It's a New York Times bestseller, over 2 million copies sold, and it makes this really radical demand on you, the reader.
It really does.
It asks you to step away from your analytical mind, to dissolve what Tolle calls the false created self, or the ego.
All in order to gain knowledge of, and I love this phrase, the air of the spiritual.
Yeah. So our mission here is to really unpack how he synthesizes these core teachings of ancient masters, from Christ to Buddha, into one tremendously simple and immediate message.
And that message is?
That there is a way out of suffering, and it's accessible right here, right now.
And what's so foundational to this work, I think, is the assertion that authentic human power and fulfillment and peace.
All the good stuff.
All of it, yeah. It's found only by completely surrendering to the now.
So the central challenge he presents is, it's the mind's incessant, almost pathological tendency to just deny the present moment.
Exactly. We're exploring this transformative and I think for many a pretty unsettling notion that you are not the constant stream of involuntary thinking in your head.
Okay, let's unpack this with the book's central analogy. He introduces enlightenment with the story of a beggar.
Right, the beggar sitting on the box.
For 30 years, right, constantly asking strangers for change, but he's completely unaware that the box he's sitting on is filled with gold.
And that treasure within, that's the state of being.
Exactly. And he defines enlightenment not as some, superhuman, far-off achievement. He uses the Buddha's remarkably practical definition.
Which is simply the end of suffering.
Just that. It is the natural state of felt oneness with being.
So if that's the goal, the obstacle is, well, it's vast. What blocks this natural state, according to Tolle, is your identification with the mind.
Which makes thought compulsive.
Compulsive. And he offers some truly staggering statistics here. He suggests that, 80 to 90% of most people's thinking is not only repetitive and useless,
but actively harmful.
Actively harmful, yeah. Just dwelling in negativity or worry.
That immediately brings up a question about Western philosophical tradition.
Oh, for sure.
Because Tolle points a finger directly at what he calls the most basic error. Descartes' famous statement, "I think, therefore I am."
Right. That equation of identity with thinking.
So if your identity is based on constant thinking, you're locked into the state of continuous conflict and apparent separateness. But doesn't that make the mind the villain? I mean, thinking is how we navigate reality, right?
That is such a crucial clarification.
Yeah.
The mind is a superb instrument when it's used rightly.
When you deliberately focus it.
Exactly, on a task.
Yeah.
The problem isn't using the mind wrongly. The problem is that it uses you. That's the great delusion. Believing that you are your mind. And this creates an opaque screen of concepts, labels, and judgments between you and reality.
And that screen blocks the feeling of oneness.
Blocks everything.
Yeah.
All true relationship, that feeling of oneness with life, it all gets obstructed.
So if the mind is this, noisy instrument, what is this concept of being?
He describes being as the eternal, ever-present one life that is accessible to you now.
As your deepest self, your true nature.
Right. But you can't access it by talking about it or analyzing it or, trying to grasp it mentally.
So how do you know it?
It's only knowable when the mind falls still, when you are fully, intensely present in the now.
Okay.
So if we connect this problem of mind identification back to human suffering, we have to look at the structure of the ego.
The phantom self.
The phantom self.
Yeah.
It's a creation of the unconscious mind, and its survival depends entirely on time.
The survival mechanism.
Yes, the ego is obsessed with keeping the past alive, defining itself by its history.
The whole "who are you" question.
Exactly, and it's constantly projecting itself into the future for salvation, constantly saying, one day, when I get that job or that relationship.
Or that house, I'll finally be okay.
Yes, and Tolle says this future orientation is a total reversal of the truth. It makes the mind fundamentally dysfunctional in the now.
This sounds an awful lot like what he calls psychological time. I find that term so fascinating because it reframes my anxiety not as, a necessary response to reality.
Right.
But as an addiction to future worry.
That's precisely the dynamic. The egoic mind, it cannot function and remain in control without psychological time, past and future.
So the timeless now is a threat.
a direct threat to its existence. And what's stored in this accumulation of psychological time, both for you and collectively, is a vast amount of residual pain.
Okay.
And here's, I think, the absolute core insight for you. The pain you create now is always some form of unconscious resistance.
Like judgment or negativity?
Judgment, avoidance, negativity, all of it. Resistance to what is. That resistance is fundamentally temporal. It requires you to be somewhere other than here.
Which means most human pain is unnecessary.
Completely unnecessary and self-created.
And all of that stored unnecessary suffering, it coalesces into what he calls the pain body.
It's a heavy concept, yeah. The pain body is the accumulated emotional pain from the past, and it gets lodged in your mind, in your body.
And it operates like a separate entity.
Almost like an invisible negative energy entity.
Yeah.
And its survival requires it to feed on pain.
So think about those moments when you feel an impulse to start an argument
Or when a slight negativity just spirals into road rage. Or when you obsessively recount past grievances.
That's the pain body waking up.
It's waking up and it needs to feed on anger or grief or emotional trauma. It fears the light of consciousness.
So if the problem is this unconscious identification with the pain body, how do we dissolve it? The technique sounds deceptively simple.
It is intensely simple, but it requires absolute discipline. You have to observe the pain body.
Just watch it.
When it arises, you feel its energy field within you, but instead of judging it or reacting to it, you take your full attention into it. You become the witness.
And this act of witnessing is what breaks the identification.
It breaks it. When you are the observer, you access the power of presence, and the pain body can no longer use you to replenish this negative energy.
Okay, so let's move to the practical application here. If we want to dismantle this compulsive stream of thought and create that necessary gap, that no mind space, what are the immediate steps?
The first method he gives is watching the thinker.
You become the silent witness or watcher of the thought process itself.
Right. Don't try to stop the thoughts, just observe them as they arise.
I like to use the analogy of, watching clouds pass in the sky. You observe their shape and movement, but you don't engage with them. You don't follow them down the road.
That's a perfect illustration. When you remain the silent watcher, the thought it loses its power over you.
It subsides.
It begins to subside, yeah. Opening up a space of inner stillness, which Tolle says introduces the joy of being. The gap between thoughts gets wider.
And his second method is also very practical.
It is. It involves directing your attention totally into the time. Now, through routine activities. You pick something you do every day.
Like walking upstairs, washing dishes.
Closing the car door. And you give it your fullest, non-judgmental attention. You feel the texture of the soap, the physical movement of your feet.
And by making the activity an end in itself,
you draw consciousness away from the constant analysis and projection of the mind.
This concept of physicality is also where he brings in the inner body as a primary portal to the now, it's a bit more abstract. What does he mean by inhabiting the body?
Inhabiting the body means feeling that subtle, invisible energy field, some call it chi or life force, that pervades your entire physical form.
So this isn't just a mental exercise.
No, it's a visceral awareness. By focusing inward, you ground your consciousness in the body, and this instantly connects you to being, completely bypassing that conceptual layer of the mind.
And he says transformation happens through the body.
Through the body, not by escaping it. And he highlights some fascinating physical benefits of this inner body awareness.
Like what?
Well, by not accumulating psychological time, worry resistance in the psyche or the cells, it can significantly slow down the aging process.
Really?
Yeah. And it also greatly strengthens both your physical immune system and your psychic system against external negativity. He says very simply, the body loves your attention.
Okay, let's take this framework and apply it to one of the most fraught areas of human existence, intimate relationships.
Yes.
Tolle suggests that without consciousness, most relationships are deeply flawed, and they often oscillate wildly between intense love and hate.
And this is because, for the mind-identified person, relationships are almost always based on addictive clinging.
So the ego is looking for a substitute for salvation.
Exactly. A surrogate. We look to a partner to cover up those deep-seated feelings of lack of incompleteness, of fear.
And that's why when the partner fails to meet this impossible demand for salvation,
love turns to its shadow, disappointment, hostility.
So how does an enlightened relationship operate then? If we're doing the work, what happens when we introduce that consciousness into a partnership?
The relationship then stops being about need. It becomes a spiritual practice.
A sadhana.
Using the term from the source, yes. A sadhana. The greatest catalyst for transformation is complete acceptance of your partner as they are. No need to judge them, no need to change them.
That radical acceptance.
It immediately takes you beyond the boundaries of the ego.
But I have to ask, for the person navigating modern life, how do you balance that radical acceptance with the practical need for healthy boundaries?
That is a vital distinction.
Doesn't total acceptance risk enabling dysfunctional behavior? Right. Especially if a partner's pain body is acting out.
And Tolle is clear on this. Acceptance is of the present moment, not necessarily the behavior itself.
Okay.
If the behavior is intolerable, you have to act from a state of consciousness, not reaction. So when conflict arises, you observe the pattern, the need to be right, the defensiveness, without reacting.
You stay the silent, knowing witness.
Right. Because unconsciousness and knowing cannot coexist. By holding that space of presence, the dysfunctional pattern loses its energy source, and it will eventually dissolve.
And this brings us to what is maybe the most challenging and probably misunderstood concept in the book: surrender.
It's so often mischaracterized as defeat or passivity.
Yeah, giving up.
But Tolle defines it as the profound wisdom of yielding to the flow of life by accepting the present moment unconditionally. It's not resignation, it's acceptance of what is.
And this is practical too. I mean, if you find a situation, an illness, a job, an unresolvable conflict, to be intolerable.
You have 3 clear options.
And none of them involve resistance.
Right. You can remove yourself from the situation, you can change it, or you can accept it totally.
And if action is genuinely impossible,
then acceptance offers you inner freedom from the external condition. You surrender to the isness of the moment.
That brings us back to the ultimate and I think beautiful simplicity of the entire text.
Which is that you cannot be conscious and unhappy at the same time.
Right.
Negativity, resistance, anxiety, they only survive when you're dwelling in psychological time. When you bring full attention, when you bring presence to what is.
Resistance dissolves.
It just dissolves.
Yeah.
And you enter that state of grace and lightness that is naturally available to you.
So in summary, the source material offers 2 essential daily moves for you to practice.
The first is to disidentify from the mind. Realize you are not that compulsive internal voice.
And the second?
Consciously choose, minute by minute, to dwell in the state of presence.
And when you're free of psychological time,
being reveals itself as your deepest self. And you realize you are already complete and whole without needing anything external to fix you.
It's just tremendously empowering to realize that nearly all of your perceived problems, your unease, your anxiety, your guilt, they all stem from the mind's denial of the now. And that salvation and fulfillment and peace are not some future goal you have to work toward for 20 years.
They're available to you here and now.
Yeah.
And, Tolle acknowledges that often humanity has to be forced into the kingdom of heaven kicking and screaming, as he puts it.
Through intense suffering, the historical way of the cross.
Right, before we finally surrender. But he offers this powerful alternative choice.
Which is?
Every negative event, every moment of difficulty, every illness can be used not just for survival, but actively for enlightenment.
When you choose to bring full acceptance and presence to that moment.
Precisely.
That is a challenging, profound, and ultimately a really liberating way to view your life. As we close this deep dive, I think we should leave you with this truth straight from the source material and just reflect on its importance.
You are here to enable the divine purpose of the universe to unfold. That is how important you are.